So it is a different situation to some extent. However, I'll say this to go back to the last question. There's really no fundamental difference between what has been done in Alaska and what all of us are capable of doing in any state of the union, and that's for sure. The only difference is the ground's a little bit more fertile in Alaska. I know Dick well enough to know that he would not run for governor. He really would not run for governor if he didn't think he had a good chance of winning. Now, that is not the same as saying he's going to win. But Dick has passed up statewide races in the past because he felt for him the time was not right, that it would just be a kind of a sacrificial race. And at their level of development up there, they have the luxury, I think, of making that kind of decision. So he would not be running for governor if he didn't have a chance, or if he didn't think he had a chance. And I would say Dick has been amazingly accurate in his predictions for what libertarians are going to be doing in Alaska over the years. I mean, toward the end of each election, you can call Dick and say, Dick, what's going to happen really? And he'll say, well, we're going to get 13% statewide, and we're going to get 20% in Fairbanks and 8% in Anchorage. And you look at the paper the next day, and it turns out that he was right on the money. So he does know what he's talking about, or has in the past. In terms of other races outside of Alaska, I would say this, that the best chance and most realistic chance is going to be at the very local level. Okay, there was a guy, you probably read about him, Marshall Dannenberg down in, Muskrat Foot, South Carolina, or something like that. I mean, a very small town, I'm sorry, very small town in South Carolina who was just elected to the city council, okay? I think this is the kind of thing we're going to see more and more of, both partisan and nonpartisan. I think there's an outside chance maybe at some legislative partisan races in states like Montana, conceivably. I would say, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier about this being a long-haul thing. I think if you look at it politically, in the long haul, most people, unless they fall into a very, very favorable situation, are going to have to establish themselves as a credible political personality, as, say, a city council person in Muskrat Foot, okay, before he gets elected to the state legislature in South Carolina. So I would say in the next 2 years, there won't be too many. I would say in the next 4 to 6 years, there will be more and more, if that trend continues. And you didn't ask this question, but I'll answer it anyway, because it's a question I get occasionally. And that is, well, does that not mean then that we should devote all our energies to local races and not even bother with running a candidate for Senate and candidate for governor and candidate for president and all this kind of thing? I mean, isn't it true that where it's at is the very local grassroots level? And the answer is, in my opinion, yes and no, meaning that it's where it's at in the sense that that is where libertarians are overwhelmingly the most likely to be elected, is at the very, very localist level. But I would argue that everything works together at all levels. That is, the reason that someone is willing to vote for somebody who's running for city council of Muskrat Foot, South Carolina, in part has to do with the fact that they have been persuaded through the mass media, through the impersonal aspects of statewide or national campaigning, that it's okay to be a libertarian. That yes, in fact, there is a third alternative. And that if that essential ingredient were not there, the chances of the guy in Muskrat Foot would be much, much less. So I always shy away, talk about false dichotomies, I always shy away from trying to make a choice between concentrating on local, concentrating on national or statewide. It all works together, it's all equally important, and people do what they are going to do what they want to do anyway, and that's fine. Okay.
Just put on. Okay. Thank you once again, Chris Hocker.
sign on my desk at home. It's by some fellow named Ammar Ibu al-Khalif. And Ammar says, 4 things come not back: the spoken word, the sped arrow, time past, and the neglected opportunity. Election campaigns represent A, no in fact the prime opportunity to generate growth for the Libertarian movement through one of its component parts, the Libertarian Party. Old-timers here have seen spurts of growth coincide with candidacies. Locally, we campaigned for McBride in '76, for Gary Greenberg and Jim Franz for governor, lieutenant governor in '78, 3 county legislator candidates in '79, and of course, last year we had 4 federal and 3 state candidates. And now this year we have 6 candidates, 1981. Despite the attrition due to the mobility of libertarians, we're still growing significantly with each campaign. And I, for one, intend to seize the opportunities presented in the upcoming campaigns to maximize our exposure and our favorable impact on the voters. This goes a hell of a lot easier when one has stout-hearted men, or if you will, stout-hearted persons, marching beside you. So I'm going to ask for your support, including your moral support, including the dedication of some of your time, and including the dedication of some of your money. I ask your support not because the Libertarian movement or the Libertarian Party needs it. I ask it because we merit it. I'd like to turn this portion of the program over now to Ernie Phillips, and he's going to share a few of his thoughts with us about libertarianism. I'd like to ask you to weigh carefully the recommendations that Ernie will make. Ernie?
Chris, don't feel bad about my hometown, okay? People here in Rochester, I tell them Williamson, and where's Williamson? I tell them, well, it's just before you get to Sodas, and then they know. That really does a thing on your ego, you know? And my wife reminded me when you were fishing for a name, Beaverfoot, did you say, or something? We have a Pickleville out our way, so if you need one, we got a good one. Okay, all right, Pickleville, you are. There's got to be somebody here tonight who's had some experience in conning people out of their money. No hands? Must be some somewhere. I'm looking for an understudy. What's happened to me is within a very short period of time, our chairman has asked me to put the arm on somebody. Tonight, it's you folks. What I'm worried about is my good guy image, you see. And if I don't keep it polished up, he's apt to recommend me for a collection agency somewhere. Actually, I'm really pleased to have the chance to do this. Most of you folks don't know that I've spent a long time, and I've got the gray hair to prove it, trying to find a home. And by golly, I've found one. Right here with the Libertarians. I spent a long time working in the National Farm Bureau, the bastion of free enterprise, and my gosh, they're turning back to the state for goodies. I've tried working through the Republican Party and the Conservative Party, and they go with the wind. We all know that, you know that. And I really had no place to go until I found you folks. And what I'm saying is that we've got a good thing going. It isn't just that we've probably got the hottest group in the state of New York, and I think we have, but we do have organization and we do have good leadership. And when you've got something going, I think we better work hard at keeping it and making it grow. And so I have no reservation to ask you to dig deep. Now, last year we had a pretty good campaign. As I understand it, Al Burris had to work hard to get the Rochester Chamber of Commerce to interview our candidates. This year, they called Dave up and said, "Who are your candidates?" Now, that's kind of nice. We have a distinguished professor becoming a TV celebrity. Monday and Wednesday evenings, John. And I thought there was another one you were working on, but it's the Wednesday night. Yeah, they're great. I don't get to hear many of them, but I did happen to turn the one in when I discovered that we had an eminent philosopher, W. Allen Burris, in our midst. And now he's become an author also. I mean, we have some great people. And if Hoseley hasn't put the arm on you to be a candidate, count your blessings, okay? The candidates are going to have to cough up more than they think. Last year, well, the bank has owned me for about 6 years, and I've had to be careful. And so I very gingerly made a contribution. Well, I'll tell you, it was only the beginning before the summer was over. So, if you aren't a candidate, there's a point. You can be a real part by seeing how much you can give. Now, if you're in my boat, my situation, and I think it's looking up on the farm right now, so maybe this year we can do a little better, but if you find yourself strapped, there are ways of viewing the situation where you can give more than you think. And I mean, we really have to. Dave was on the telephone, I think, 6, 7, or 8 hour marathon last fall trying to raise enough money for a radio blitz. We shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to give it because you said we're worthy of it, and that is the way it is. Now, you can think in terms of the little things. Here, this right here is a Baptist church rummage sale, okay? Now, that's a pretty good jacket. And I don't know whether it costs $200. It's a good-looking jacket. I got it for $750, so maybe I can contribute $192.50 to the party on that one thing alone. See, maybe you could just cut out some of the extras that you do for this thing. There isn't anything in the world worth more than working for principles. At least that's for me. And I'm really so pleased that I've got more than that going for me. I've got 2 sons who are not only leading, but pushing the old man. And I'm grateful for that, and it is awfully important. So, work some angle. Give up some dinners out. Give up some theater. Give up something. You haven't got to give it all up, but you can work at it to make your contribution even more significant. My son John and I were kicking this thing around a little bit, and people have walkathons for this and that and the other thing, and we could have a bicycle-a-thon. We could send Dave to Florida and back. And maybe we could sell shares for $50 or something. See? I wonder how many would give $200 to have a one-way ticket to Cuba. Hey, look, we got him out there. Well, Dave, I'll tell you, I'd be the first not to want to see that happen. Because after last summer, I'm going to tell you folks, that I can't wait to see Dave take Frank Horton's place in Washington. Honest to God, that town would be stood on its ear, really. So, I think that that really is enough for me. I'm figuring out here, I guess I haven't missed a whole lot. One thing I would like to mention, I have permission to do so, that we have two of our leaders have made significant contributions. John Sproul has pledged $300, and our chairman has pledged $1,000. You know what that means, don't you? We're going to have to look at that station, or that pickup truck of his a little bit longer. That beat-up job, if you haven't seen it, I suspect that's what that means. So he's given up a new pickup. Or if you already bought a new one, you got a raise in pay. So it's significant amounts that I'm talking about. But you give what you can, but challenge yourself. It takes money to run campaigns. And we did a very commendable job last year. Our material was first rate. It looked very professional if you saw it. But it does take money. If you want to go on radio or the major newspapers, it takes money. Don't let it. If you ever had to start this thing up again, it would be very, very difficult. And I say, let's put everything we got behind it.
It really is important. I jumped up here, and it's only slightly prearranged. The last few weeks I've been in two places, two rather different cities, Cleveland, Ohio, and Richmond, Virginia, for conventions, and was persuaded to do a fundraising pitch and all that kind of thing. So I'm getting more and more used to it. Fact is, with the generosity of the contributions that have come forth already, this still ought to be an $8, $9, $1,000 crowd in here. This stuff is important. You can make an argument that you could take all the presidential election years, you could take all the years you want that you can divide by 4, and throw them out the window, and where the work is really going to get done is in those years in between. And not just locally, but everywhere, nationally. You know, I can go just about anywhere in the country and find libertarian candidates running on a local level. And I can go anywhere in the country and I can find libertarians supporting them. I was in Ohio about 6 weeks ago in Cleveland. You know how many local candidates they have in the state of Ohio? 1 in the state of Ohio. In Cincinnati, which is a long way from Cleveland, both geographically and I think metaphysically. Never been in Cleveland. You know, there's sexists and there's agists and there's geographists or something, people who discriminate on the basis of geography. Well, I'm one of those. But the fact is, from a crowd smaller than this, they raised over $1,200 to help this one guy who's running for the city council in Cincinnati. And they did it because the average contribution was about $25 a person. And there were people in the audience who looked around at their tables and noticed a few people who, for one reason or another, weren't going to give $25, so they just raised it to 50. They just raised their own to 50 or 75 or 100. And I would really like, I guess because I'm sort of a connoisseur of these things, to see that level of commitment everywhere that I had the opportunity to go. In Richmond, Virginia 2 weeks ago, same situation. They have exactly 2 local candidates in the whole damn state of Virginia this year. A couple of guys running for state rep down in Chesterfield County, wherever that is, Virginia. And the same thing happened there. They raised over $1,800 from a group about the size of this. So it really is important. Years that are not divisible by 4 are every bit as important as the presidential election years to keep growing. Because if we don't keep growing, we're going backwards. Please hold up those envelopes. If you have a pledge, if you have a monthly pledge, if you have a contribution, and let these folks who are collecting know that you've got something to help with.
Well, while the pledges are being collected, I have a couple of random announcements here. First of all, if you recall reading your Dateline Rochester, our new newsletter, which comes out from the FLP instead of SIL, also from the same lovely lady, Ann Vital, who does a nice job on this one. She said,
I would just like to thank Frontline for the update to their format suggestions.
looks familiar. She says she understands Chris Hocker is going to try to auction off his old Anderson for President button this evening. I happen to have that button here.
A great deal of trouble when she wrangled that out of
Yes, right. It was very difficult. A lot of arm
Very
twisting.
nostalgic.
Many of you may recall there was a TV ad in which a young man sitting in a car, as I recall, was interviewed, and he said, "Well, I was going to vote for John Anderson, but I changed my mind, decided to vote for Ed Clark." Well, that gentleman was Chris Hocker, and this is Chris's old button, or so it has been alleged. I'd like to auction this off, see how many dollars we can get for this. What do I offer for a genuine Anderson for President button here?
I'll start it off at $5.
$5 it is. More than $5.
Oh, come on.
I've got 7.
Chris, you don't want it back?
I do. I'll go 10 on that.
We got $10 for a button. He just want to get it out of his hands again.
I don't want to get it. No.
$10
I'm
once.
leaving my options open for 84.
I see. $10 twice. And thrice to Mr. Hocker. Bought back his own button. Thank you, Chris. Alan Burris and I were recently down to a Connecticut State Convention, and so even though we were featured as a couple of panelists there, we still ended up making a donation ourselves, so I understand exactly how Chris feels right now. One piece of work that's occupied a great deal of my time, but even more so, hundreds of hours, maybe into the thousands of hours of Alan Burris recently, is the Liberty Primer. Most of you saw this on the way in. If you didn't, take a look at it on the way out. It is a seminal work, in my opinion. It pulls together arguments and logic from a wide variety of sources into a coherent, brief, persuasive package intended to be read by somebody that's just being introduced to the Libertarian movement and intended to survey the movement quite widely. I'll just like to go over his introduction here to stress what it's all about. It says, "There's a wealth of information and ideas about liberty, but it's spread among many sources. Often only one narrow question is discussed, and you need to know philosophy or economics to understand it. Many people who care about liberty don't have the time to do all this reading and figure out how it fits the picture. And the time could be better spent doing something to help liberty instead of everybody reinventing the wheel. But until you understand something, it's hard to get excited about it or to effectively do anything about it. So the purpose of writing this was to pull together a simple, brief, and persuasive summary of the case for liberty. I think Alan has done an outstanding job of that, and I commend this to your consideration. We have to ask you $4.95 for it right now because we're trying to raise funds for the first printing. There's drinks in the bar, and join us for the usual Libertarian conviviality afterwards. Thanks again for coming out.
Do you have the tab?
The tab? Oh, no, you don't. Nice try. Good night, all.
This concludes the program. Please fast forward the cassette to the end so that it will be ready to listen to again.